London plays host to this season of Premier League Poker. 16 of some of the world's greatest players are here in one of the most exciting cities on earth to compete for one of the biggest titles in the game.
I'm a lucky fish.
Yes! You happy to sacrifice her and beat me?
Don't hurt me, Phil. Don't hurt your girl.
Big one!
Go back to your house in Chelsea. Hang some new wallpaper with your newfound winnings.
I'm the best!
This is the Party Poker Premier League from Asper's Casino in Westfield, Stratford City. Last time, Group A's last league match played out, and it was Jonathan Duhamel, Sam Trickett, and Jungle Man who secured seats in the final. Now tonight, the spotlight falls on Group B. For some of these players, it represents a last chance saloon, a final opportunity to clinch a place on the final table. It's make or break with $2 million in the prize pool and the chance to write their names into the record books. Here's how things stand going into Group B's final heat.
Previously on Premier League Poker, Group B's matches have delivered some exciting action. Tobias Reinkemeier defeated Shak to win the opening game. They went heads up again in Heat 2, and it was the Americans' turn to win. In the third heat, the pressure was on for our poker pros.
What happened? Poker gods, why have you deserted me?
That's an awesome card. That's an awesome way to die.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've ever played so bad.
Talal Shakerchi was on form, locking horns with Tony G.
Can't win.
And he left fuming. The English businessman went on to take down maximum points and move into the top 3. Now the players are back in the building. Emotions will be running high as they try and advance onto the final table. Here's a reminder of how the points are dished out. The winner will get 16, the runner-up will get 11, then 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, and 0 points for coming in 8th place. And tonight, it's their last chance to accumulate these precious league points.
Group B is vastly different from Group A in this Premier League Poker 6. A couple of players already have their final table tickets booked. For Shak and Tobias Reinkemeier, they can do a song and dance on the table because no matter what happens, they are going to be in that top 3. And for Talal Shakerchi, he only has to survive a few knockouts to ensure that he is going to be in the top 3. For the other 5, it's playing for the playoff spots. And even though Jennifer Tilly has a slight advantage, she has to hold on and watch. Tony G, Igor Kurganov, Jason Mercier, and Phil Laak, they're basically playing for playoff spots, and they have to be aware of what the others are doing. Stay ahead and try and make the playoffs.
It's pretty much a 4-way struggle to try to get one spot to play Jennifer.
The Premier League title is a very prestigious title, and you know, you're not at the final table, you don't have any chance of winning it.
No one ever wants to be eliminated from anything, but especially the Premier League when you've put in a big effort, and this is the 4th heat, so a lot of time has passed, and you want to keep battling, and you want to get through.
Welcome to Asper's Westfield Stratford City Casino. Jesse May alongside the legendary Phil Hellmuth, owner of 13 World Series of Poker bracelets. Unfortunately, not a part officially of this Premier League Poker 6.
I'm still a part. I'm in the booth.
Absolutely. Sorry, Phil.
If I come in first and Talal makes some sort of colossal mistake and doesn't come in second, then I move on to the final table.
If you stood?
No. I need to come worse than second for you to do that.
Let's everyone try to figure it out themselves.
Math is not my strong point. I failed math twice in school.
Phil Hellmuth was already betting big.
Let's not have everyone helping everyone. Let's all figure it out.
Yeah, let Jennifer
Did you hear me say a word? I didn't say a word.
The interesting thing about today is you're talking about survival, and it's so tightly bunched with Mercier at 10 Tony G at 10, Igor at 8, and Laak at 7. They all have a shot to make the top 5.
I've never used it.
Now, as far as Tobias and Dan, Shak, and Talal go, they're essentially spoilers. And really, the focus is going to be on Igor, Jason Mercier, and Tony G. And if Jason Mercier has a wait-and-see attitude, and Igor is going to go for it, the question is, what is Tony G going to do?
I think Tony G is a veteran. Well, he's definitely a veteran. He's the only guy that's played in every one of these, and I think that he understands the power of uber patience here. So he basically has to outlast Mercier. He recognizes if he finishes third, he has like a 95% chance of making it through. So fourth gives him a great chance also. So he doesn't really have to play to win. He has to plays to make the top 4. That's the way to play.
Talal Shakerchi has 3-bet Kurganov from the big blind with no hand at all, 7-3 offsuit. So he obviously feels like he can put pressure on Igor.
You know, Igor is one of the guys he can't put a lot of pressure on. And Igor's going to stuff up his game, and look at he's going to call him with ace high. It turns out it was ace 7 against 3-7, and basically Talal hit his miracle 3.
I mean, you have to be right, Phil. Talal has got this dead wrong. Igor is not scared and actually has huge incentive to make a crazy play at a lot of times.
Igor has played so tight in the Premier League that he knows now he can make a move, and you know, he knows that people are going to have to respect him, and so he's opened it up and said, I'm going to get involved. Now he's going to raise here probably because he can take advantage of his really tight reputation. He's studying, he's trying to figure out what to do. He just turned the nut flush draw. That's like one of the best cards in the deck for him on the turn. Let's see if he's able to pull the trigger and raise.
He might be thinking, I'm going to try and hit my flush, and if I miss my flush, then I'm going to bluff. Could it be?
Well, he might just think that ace high is good, and why raise, you know? That was a horrible card for him because it's going to be much tougher to bluff now that the board paired. He really should have made a move on 4th Street when the Jack of Clubs hit. Now I think Talal's probably going to check, and he'll probably call. But I don't even think Igor's going to bluff here. I mean, he has ace high.
Wow, Talal's just decided to just go bonkers. It's a weird sort of bet, isn't it? What can he get called by?
That's just so weird. One possibility is that he puts Igor in ace king or ace queen, and he's hoping for an ace high call down, but Igor would have re-raised him.
Not even beating all of your bluffs, but it's so cheap.
Look at this call.
You have ace queen or something.
Wow, Talal said you have ace queen, don't you? So, did he actually? Is he that good that he was betting to get paid off by ace high?
I mean, that was just a crazy hand.
You're a genius, Talal. That's incredible value bet.
I'm a lucky fish.
So Talal Shakerchi takes a chunk out of Igor Kurganov. It hasn't only benefited Talal. Phil Laak, Jason Mercier, and Tony G all smile to see Igor get punished. And here comes Tilly.
6-7 raises to 5,000.
Pocket twos, bro.
C8 folds.
Even though she has a strategy to play tight, she's just not going to fold the queens, is she?
She raised with queens. Tony G folded ace 7. Here comes her boyfriend, Phil Laak.
Don't hurt me, Phil. Don't hurt your girl.
That's when you're trying to play safe, because you don't want to go
Money is important, but love is forever. Is knocking your girl out of the tournament worth our relationship? No, I think not. It's hard to find a good girl. Isn't that right, Dan Shak? Dan was saying he admired our relationship.
Look at this. There's only 2 kings in the deck left that could beat her.
Too many colors.
Here we go, rooting for Tobias and Dan.
I'm going into my smart place now, which is the place where I don't say anything more.
7 of hearts, 5 of spades.
Not the best flop for her. It's a good flop, but I mean, it's not, you know, she would love to have seen like a Jack 9 deuce flop or something.
Now, Phil, when Jennifer puts chips in this pot, The other players are going to look, because they know she's not playing any 2 cards, a guy like Dan Shak or Tobias Reinkemeier, can't they put crazy pressure on her knowing that she really cannot afford to bagel? Or am I just taking this too far?
Well, she can afford to bagel, but I think you're taking it a little bit too far. I do think that, you know, Dan Shak considered that possibility, but she also has 16 points. She's not really the one you really want to be picking on too much at this point.
We'll see how Reinkemeier feels about it. You know, one thing is for sure, if Reinkemeier starts sticking chips in the pot, Jennifer is going to think about slowing down.
Tobias, I think you might have flopped us straight.
I think if she calls here, he might shut down.
Big lay down.
I know in the booth you all are saying that Tobias is dreadfully clever to move Jennifer off of her big hand, but, you know, he's already at the final table. I have to pick my battles. That was a perfect waste of a fantastic hand. And you started it, Phil, because you should never have flattered. You should have raised and not let Tobias in with his meager, piddly little cards. Right?
I was wondering if it was right to raise.
Yes, it was right to raise. You have to protect your girl. Don't let this idiot in with his 4, 3, 2, 6, 7 combination.
But I'm trying to play very careful, and I didn't want to escalate a pot with some
Could this be a lover's quarrel developing between poker's most famous couple, Tilly and Laak? Before the event started, we quizzed them about how it must feel to be playing at the same table as your significant other.
Oh, it's like 1,000 daggers of pain.
I think there's probably going to be some periods of tenseness with my boyfriend Phil because we hate to play with each other.
When she's in hands with other players and stuff, I just feel like a parent and their toddler is on a swing set about to fall or something. I'm like always like, oh, but she always surprises me.
I really hope that he's not going to get into my head because that would be terrible. I mean, there's people what you want in your head when you're playing poker, but not Phil Laak.
Poker's war, and we can set aside our love for temporarily and try and destroy each other for a day or two, I suppose, you know?
People are going to see cracks in our happy veneer.
It's Last Chance Saloon for Group B. Plenty more Premier League Poker 6 action to come.
Group B are in the spotlight as their quest for a seat on the final table takes shape. Tonight, it's make or break as just 3 players will go through. The point permutations are intriguing and a little bit complicated. Only Jessie May can make sense of it all.
That last hand wrong. I should have checked.
Would you agree that Tilly and Mercier in the nominal 4th and 5th spot have the most complicated decisions as related to this format?
Well, I mean, really, those aren't the 2 that are tied. Mercier and Tony G are the guys that are tied at 10. So I think that's a tough spot. I think Jennifer Tilly, I believe I'm still doing the calculations, but I believe if she finishes 6th for 3 points, that puts her at 19. She may be locked into the final 5, just with a 6th place finish.
Mercier and Tony could probably pass her with a 1st and a 2nd, but it has to be exactly 1st and 2nd between those 2.
Yeah.
And that's the only possibility. I think you're right, though. 6th place was probably about 99%.
I mean, it's a very high probability. I don't know about 99, but it's, yeah, you could be like, I guess the math guys would say 8 times 7 or something, or 7 times 6. So, you know, 50 to 1 or whatever it would be, that they don't exactly come 1 and 2.
We've got action here. Mercier, who has
that's why it's in the rules, because in the old
raised out of the small blind, has gotten re-raised by Tilly, and I wonder if he's thinking about getting it. I mean, is this the kind of?
He cannot. Here's an interesting hand. Mercier made it 4K to go, and Jennifer raised 25. So now, Mercier, some of the great players, the way they play pairs, is they're hoping they're against exactly ace-king, and sometimes we call big bets, and then try to decide after the flop what to do, because sometimes that's a great situation. You can win a lot of chips that way.
There's also
more honest game.
So that's exactly what Jason did. He called 21,000 more with the 9s because he figures a spot where he might be able to read her and then make a decision later. Now, knowing Jason, it's possible that he could better check, but it's more likely that he bets like 20,000. No, he checked it. He's playing very conservatively because it's a Premier League. He's giving her a free shot at an ace or a king. And there's the ace. So if Jason would have bet 20,000 there, I think he wins the pot.
I remember reading about a game with that rule.
Oh, he hates that. Big sigh. Shake of the head. And to be fair, Phil, Jason Mercier has had that look on his face so often in this Premier League. He's been killed by more rivers and had to make good laydowns as much as anyone in this group.
It was 5-card draw, jacks are better.
Yeah, you know, I was watching Jason's tweets and kind of smiling because he tweeted, "So tilted, was on a short stack, and 3 all-ins survived." And you know what? Everybody that plays Premier League can relate.
Yeah, but it's kind of similar to you. You know, he did have a big stack. He was always faced the situations where the only great play he could make was the laydown. You know, the only great play, and he's made them. He's made them. But you know what you get for that. you know, you never get anything except another couple hands. You know?
Well, making those great laydowns, you can get a lot. I mean, suppose that the 3 all-ins had gone the other way, he'd have what, another 8 points or whatever it is. So
but you're never accumulating. At some point, you have to pick up a hand and actually win with it.
Yes, yes.
Jacks are not good in deuce to 7.
They don't do well. We were playing deuce to 7 now.
So what's Stamina opening for? 5?
In Belarus.
Yes, this has been fairly standard for everyone, around 2.5.
Jason with the ace-6 of hearts, that's a good fold in the Premier League format. He would never fold that hand in a million years on the button, except in the Premier League format, and I like his fold.
I think in your heat A, there were 3 players who had to be a little bit extra aggressive. They were Marvin Reinkemeier, Scott Seaver, and Daniel Negreanu. And Marvin went for it out of the traps, ended up getting completely trapped by you. But Seaver and Negreanu were more like Mercier, that he decides, you know what, let me sit back and see what happens first, because I'm great at adjusting. And what's about to happen is Tony G's going to get all his money in, isn't he?
Well, we'll see. It doesn't make sense for him to get it all in. All he has to do is call 5K here. So normally Tony just wants to raise and win this, but he can't help himself. He had to get the raise in. And really the raise is a good raise. I mean, he has an open-ended straight draw, basically 7 or jack, and a flush draw.
6 raises to 50,000.
And Tony may have to move in here. Now the heat is on. I mean, a call shuts down Dan, and he gets basically 2 free cards.
I'm quite surprised that Tony G is actually only 45% here. I mean, he's got the open-ended straight flush draw in a sense.
Dan has some suspicions here, I'm sure, because does Tony G play ace-queen like this? No, but I think Dan has to fold, and I think you'll see him fold.
Why did I have to mention the hand?
Jacks are better.
No, but I don't think you raise with ace queen or king queen. I don't think you put it all on the line. So I think you have a draw.
Wow.
Phil, he's good. He is good. This is Dan Shak. I was talking to him earlier. He said, there's a lot more to my game, but strategy dictated I play tight.
And you probably have overs to my jack and spades.
Nope.
Oh!
I don't.
The big one. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
I had draw with the 5.
9-10 of spades. Okay. You have an open end straight draw?
Did they show the spade?
No, I figured out what you had. I just.
You think it's straight draw?
Yeah.
But Dan Shak was saying that if the hand gets turned over, he's still going to pass. What do you think about that? He knew what Tony had.
No, he doesn't have to pass.
I figured worst shape would have been like
Well, I was a underdog or a favorite? Yeah, that's what I figured. No, I figured out exactly what he had to have.
There's nothing wrong with throwing away a hand where you're even money for all your chips.
Sixes, eights, or queens. I mean, but I didn't.
In fact, in this league, it's preferred.
It is. I mean,
Once I put the 50 in, I probably should have called.
people get faced with very strange decisions, and it's a weird format. It makes you think, and sometimes it even makes you guess.
What was I, about 55%?
Wow. That was.
I think I'm completely neutral.
Interestingly,
My jacks were ahead.
enough. I wonder what Mercier and Igor and Jennifer Tilly and Phil Laak were thinking. Were they praying for Tony to get called just to have a chance to get him knocked out?
Oh, sure they were. They were completely praying. I mean, I was in that spot yesterday. You really want the other person to be all in, because if they go out, there's a lot of pressure off of you. That's one guy. If Tony goes out, he's locked into 10 points. That's one guy you can hurdle over.
Would have been a good hero call, but.
You know, there was a bit of a cooler early on, you and Mad Marvin Reinkemeier, and you managed to get so many chips from him in a spot
I just thought he might have two.
where later on, both Negreanu and Esfandiari said, "How did you not know what Phil had? We knew he had 3 aces." Do you think it was? Was it? What was your range there?
Well, I knew that any pot that I played, people were going to raise me, because it just looked so. I decided to just limp in under the gun with the aces. When he made it whatever 12,000, I just made it 42,000. I wanted to send a message. He called me. Now it came ace queen 5. Now I have to gamble. A 7 came on the turn. Now he makes 3 7s. So
it was a bit
pretty unlucky.
You were very
pretty unlucky for him. And then the river was a jack, and now I checked, and now he bet like 140,000. I can't raise my last 60,000 even though I have 3 aces in a cash game every time, in every other tournament on the planet, every time. But if I go out, I lose the Premier League. It's going to cost me 80,000. So it's the one. So I didn't even study. I just knew what the right play was and just called him with the 3 aces. Look at the chip leads here.
Yeah, Shak is already the short stack, but really it's Kurganov and Mercier and Tilly you have to look at. Kurganov already slipping off the pace. You're right, and Laak.
Those 4 are all battling, you know, for 1 spot, pretty much. Or could be 2 spots if Jennifer Tilly loses her chips, so.
Well, that's what I.
Yeah, Tony G's actually in pole position among those, right?
And I'm looking at this, so the more I'm looking at this, even if Jennifer Tilly just. Yeah, I mean, a 7th place is 2 points, right?
But he could have set a 6 or 8 too.
She's already played too many hands. If her strategy is to wait, but she's still got chips.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, this format brings out different plays you wouldn't normally use. And so some of those plays include making big size bets, which I like to do anyway, and some of those plays include, you know, limping with a short stack. There's some weird stuff that you can do, because if you just move up a spot or 2, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you've brought some funny clubs out of your bag during this Premier League. Which is always fun to watch.
Now I'm looking at Jennifer Tilly. Even if she finishes in 7th, that's just huge for her, because it puts her to 18 points. And
I think there still has to be a 1-2 finish.
Laak would have to finish. Yeah. Mercier, Tony G, Igor, and Laak would have to finish 1 and 2, one of those 4, which could happen.
Oh, we have to be patient.
No, I think that happens.
16, 11, oh,
That's what
wow.
I'd like to be. I'm going to wait like how long.
I do think if Jennifer makes it up to 6, that would put her at 19 points. Let me think about that for a second.
The thing is that in 7th place with just 18, she wins all tiebreakers against, I believe, both Mercier and Tony G, because she'll have a 3rd position. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's true.
Well, no, because Tony G on the merit of... Right. Oh, she has a 3rd, and so if Tony G finishes 3rd, she wins the tiebreaker?
So then it'd be an 8. Mercier would have an 8. Right, because Jennifer hasn't had a bagel yet. it's early to say, but I just feel like of the four, and I'm talking about Mercier, Tony G, Phil, Laak, and Igor, I feel like Jason Mercier is a big favorite here to make the playoffs, and that just has to do with, it just seems like he's so comfortable with the adjustments. Someone asked him in the interview this morning, what do you have to do? He summed it up in 2 sentences. He knows crystal clear exactly what the situation is. He's also got a freshly ironed shirt and just looks ready for battle.
Well, you know, Jason's tough. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he knows that super tight is the way he's going to get there. And here's Jennifer Tilly with the 5-7 of hearts raising. You know, when she probably shouldn't be raising with that. She should be sitting back and waiting for some hands, some real hands, and giving other players a chance to bust themselves.
This is perhaps along the line of a leopard doesn't change their spots. You know, no matter what the strategy says, Jennifer Tilly, she plays her game, and her game is the way she plays poker, and that's all there is to it, I think, Phil. Guys like yourself and Mercier and some of the other top players, you have such an understanding of the game that you don't have a style. You have whatever style you choose to employ.
This is a matter of preparation, you know, and understanding exactly what you need to do.
You know, Tilly's in a tough spot. I mean, she's made this bet. I wonder, I know it sounds crazy, if she shouldn't have just checked for pot control. She's very, very open to a guy like Tobias Reinkemeier just swinging at her. What if it comes at deuce? What if it comes at ace?
Wow, that's cold.
Like you can hear the
that is really cold
in his voice, can't you?
But when you start playing 5-7 of hearts, stuff like this happens. You know, I said it when she came into the pot, you know.
Has this pot gotten away from her now? I mean, as far as it's so big that Tobias can make a little value bet and she's going to be thinking about paying it off?
Oh, yeah, that corner is kind of important. That happens, for sure.
Wow.
Oh, this is gonna,
not just a little value bet.
This is going to hurt Jennifer Tilly so badly.
She folded the queens when all he had was a 5 on the 4-5-7, and now she has 5s, and let's see if she has the discipline to fold. She folded when she was wrong, unfortunately.
So that starts you out on the wrong foot, and when that happens, sometimes your rhythm is just completely off.
Let's see if she can fold when she's right.
That's what you would say, probably.
The stats you could take away from me on the river?
Sometimes I get my analysis super right.
That would have been your analysis, though. That,
pretty unlucky card for her.
Only 30.
It is, and also Tobias hasn't exactly played this hand like Ace-King, has he? He just flatted from the big blind before the flop, and his check called all the way.
Jennifer has to ask herself, what can I beat?
I handle hands differently, so.
Yeah. No,
I'm not going to put 70 on the flop.
I mean, he called a bet on the Jack 3-5 board, called a bet with a 4, and an ace game. Really, what can she beat?
I raise pre-flop, you call the big blind. I usually don't call out of position.
Well, I want to find out where he goes.
I bet the flop, you figure that's a C-bet, we call.
He needs the points, so I want to see.
I bet the turn, you're like, I can represent, I have some kind of straight, I'll check, show bet. You call. River comes in ace, you're like, maybe she hit her ace.
That's true.
Let's find out right now.
That actually is true. The ace should have hit Jennifer, shouldn't it have?
Tobias is too damn clever. I just shouldn't even get involved with him. Only thing I can beat is a bluff. Which
Pretty
is
much
what
true.
he has, like 3/4 of the time. Lead out on the river.
33. One more.
This is not one of the
He
three
hit his
quarters.
ace.
Oh, poor Jennifer. Her rhythm is rotten. She's listening to the wrong beat. Only half of the first level, Phil. There's been quite a lot of action. I mean, look at the movement. 5 players there. I know it's a small sample, but their V-chips were over 35%, and only 1 player had a V-chip under 10%. That's Jason Mercier. His strategy is crystal clear.
The stakes are huge as players try to dodge elimination from this season's Premier League. Join us for more action from Group B's last league match in just a moment. Welcome back to London and the Premier League, and your chance to see 16 of the world's greatest players in action. The cast list reads like a who's who in the world of poker, but reputations count for little, as this is crunch time for Group B. Tonight, the 3 players at the bottom of the league will be eliminated. Jesse May and Phil Hellmuth are here to talk us through this one.
I would have been committed.
So, of the players who have the most at stake, it's really only Igor Kurganov who's done himself serious damage, lost about 1/3 of his stack so far.
It'll be this is a, how would you say it? This is a cracker of a match, you'd say over here in England, right?
It is a cracker.
That's right.
This is always the best when it's you know. This might even be better than the finals.
What?
To an insane asylum.
Instead of qualified. So you can ask the question: are you qualified or committed?
Race.
Several raises to 5,000.
Being very, very determined.
Not really.
See they fold.
Were you present when
The thing you did before where you check raise the flop, that worked really well for you. So I suggest you try it again.
No, I'm a bit afraid of trying.
What?
But I still might try.
Well, you have Irish position.
Yeah, I've been told about it. There's a Russian site that you can try to flop.
People just see one check.
Try it again.
Now she's raised with King 5 of hearts on the button, which I don't mind the raise on the button. Queen, you know, that's just her style, and I guess she's just gonna take it.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Maybe Jennifer needs to make some hands to win this tournament. And
every word you say, he's reading your soul.
Wow, what a great card for her kings and 5s. I hope she doesn't bet too much. If you're rooting for Jennifer, you don't want her to bet too much here. 10's a very nice bet. Now I think Kurganov might have to call here. Well, he's supposed to call.
You like it too?
Kurganov, who has 240,000 back, might feel like there is some implied odds here where if he can hit a card, he can get paid off for a big bet.
And she's harder to read with her glasses on, you know. He might be wanting to step up his aggression at some point, but this is one of those where I think you just have to study, 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 and call. I hope that Jennifer's bluffing.
And
exactly what he did.
Right. I mean, there are some hands out there that Jennifer could be bluffing with, right?
A 10 would be a really bad card for Kurganov, but...
And pay the money aside, right?
Yeah, it's even better.
Yeah, exactly. You pay no rake, and you can play for whatever, and it's secure. It's decent.
Now it's time for value.
22,000 would be a good bet. 20, nice bet.
Give everyone peace.
Nice bet.
Igor's got a problem because over the course of this Premier League, I think Jennifer has shown a little bit of form for bluffing.
She's shown a lot of bluffs. He's in a tough spot, of course. Yeah, really, what's he going to do?
That wasn't a tough spot. It was an automatic call, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't, yeah.
I'm always worried.
One thing is crystal clear. Well, a lot of things are clear, but Jennifer, like the diamonds on her finger, she's going to shine best when she makes hands and builds chips, and that's what she's doing right now.
Against Ralph Perry, yeah.
I think she's pretty much saying to the table, you know, I don't care what the stats say, what the strategy says. I didn't come here to fold my way into the final table.
I really did. I did not know the backstory, and I thought
it's interesting. She did fold the queens, which was telling us she is trying to fold at the final table. So she came in trying to play super tight, but it's so hard for people to actually play super tight. In our projections in the second heat, we felt like, I was talking to Brandon Cantu about it, he said, don't worry, these players cannot play super tight 2 heats in a row.
You know, he was right.
And because of that,
it's amazing that he said that, because he is.
I know, it was remarkable, because I was like, wow, you're right. So then that made me playing super tight even better. Because now they're going to bust themselves, you know?
And it was one of the reasons why I thought you were such a favorite when it started to get down there, when you know, got that double up and got back to about 150, 170,000, I think it was.
It's
very true.
Because, I mean, guys like Trickett and Antonio, who were supposed to just sit there like lumps on a log, it's against their nature. They just can't.
They just can't do it. And so even though it's the right strategy, and they'll argue to day's end saying it's not the right strategy, but I think that, you know, my analysis shows it's the right strategy, especially if they're going to play that way.
I do love what Sam Trickett said. He said, you know what? He said, if I sit here and play tight, I'm never going to get invited to another private cash game in Macau for the rest of my life. I mean, he said, it just doesn't work for me.
And there's Phil Laak. He called the raise with the deuce 7 of diamonds. It's interesting. He's playing. He's playing more of the Talal style of poker, more of the. Let's see what he does here. He's going to give himself a chance to win right now since he only has 7 high, or he's just going to call.
There was something that Phil Laak said today, which I hadn't heard him say once this whole Premier League. Every day he's come in and he said, I've got a strategy this, I've got a strategy that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Today he said, you know what, I'm going to have so much fun because I just get to go out there and play poker. And maybe he should have been doing that from the start. Maybe that's what suits him best.
Maybe, although I was there in his first heat when he was playing a lot of hands.
It didn't work out for him.
No, not so much. Let's see if Phil can find a way to win this spot. All he has to do is bet 20,000, but it's against Talal, so it's such a hard bet here. Because you just feel like, wow, Talal has a jack and he's going to snap call me.
I think he plays 2 pair in the center.
Come on, Phil, be a super genius, mind meld. It looks like he's got some kind of pair that he was playing pot control with, doesn't it?
14K, that's a good little bet.
They can wait sometimes so long that they get older than the first.
Is there a problem that with Talal, if he thinks that he can get you off the hand, he can just reach over and...
I would be really impressed if somehow he finds a raise here.
Yeah, and then one of his daughters
They had
said,
to leave it to their kids?
no, I don't know.
Real
I don't
tough
know
to
how,
call with
but,
10 high.
Boy, he's a good watcher, Phil.
Person, and then one of his,
Do you think
his
he's got any line on
daughters,
reading
by another,
players?
parent,
No.
said, oh no, he wasn't me. You know, those two
That was a
sons
big
were
bet
very
for Phil
responsible, and he
because
felt like
there's
he should get
17,000 laying out in that pot,
when
and it
they're
puts him
mature
right
so they
back up
don't
to around 300.
Because you can't use it on yourself.
If I was
Bill
leaving-
Gates is giving all of his kids, or Warren Buffett, who was it? Somebody very wealthy, 10 million for each kid, and that's enough.
That's enough.
I mean, that's overkill. But, I have a wealthy friend who's giving all of his wealth to charity when he passes because he thought, well, my kids, they've been loved, they have college education, they'll be taken care of, they'll be able to get out there.
Same with, exactly the same.
Leave it to the world.
Perfect education, and that's it.
C4 raises to 4,000.
That's the biggest asset. It's expensive now. You try going like for the best school all the way through. It's $1 million a kid. Isn't it amazing? It's like...
I'm sure everyone watching has their own sort of dream lineup who they'd like to see get through. There's potential. Is it going to be Scott Seaver, Antonio Esfandiari? Is it going to be Laak or Tony G or Tilly?
Yeah. In some places, but
Mercier,
there's even
perhaps.
protests about that, so they're going to quit the 500 euro fee.
Germany's just a brilliant...
Talal with the 5-8 of hearts, 16K. You would think it would be a snap fold here.
Raise their protesting.
And there's a call. He called 20,000, 10 big blinds with a 5-8 of hearts against a Jennifer Tilly re-raise.
Right. Both Talal and Tobias seem to feel like there's some really fun spots to get into with Jennifer deeper in the hands. Oh boy. He's not going to get blown off the pot on the flop, is he?
No, I don't think so.
Lithuania cost itself hundreds of billions.
7 bets 30,000.
30,000, that's a nice size bet, Jennifer. I like it. I like it a lot.
C4 calls.
Yeah.
This is 7 of hearts.
Now, that may cause her to check and then just call any river.
C4 bet 62,000.
Okay, Jennifer.
But on the other hand, if you want to...
You've been playing fast. You have to understand the dynamics here.
Wow. This is a huge moment for her.
She can't put him on a 7 here. It's impossible.
Wow, she has called. So this is a spot for you where actually you have to think about the format. You have to think about the poker. Poker trumps format right now.
Yes. And there's a spade. That might cause him to try one more bluff.
There is an interesting dynamic here as well, which is that the only way Jennifer Tilly can actually go to the final table without having to be in the playoffs is if Talal Shakerchi gets knocked out first or second. And Jennifer knows that.
He folds.
Did he just open fold?
Couldn't be.
Did he open fold? He open folded, Phil.
That's the best thing that could happen. Must have had the really low end of the whole thing.
Well, you know me, I play anything.
He had to show a tremendous amount of courage there. The first level, though, is in the books. And for Tobias Reinkemeier, it's the chip lead. But let's look at Tilly and Tony G, because right now they're doing exactly what they have to do to stay in that playoff zone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's also interesting when people decide that they want to play to win. Like Phil Laak and Igor, they know that basically they're playing to win. They have to finish, you know, right? I mean, they basically have to finish ahead of Tilly's 16 points to have a chance, right? Both Igor and Laak know this. So some people, when they have to win, will play super aggressive, and some people super tight. But I think we all agree that super tight is a pretty good way to play when there's no annies.
Mercier, before he thinks about his hand, he has to think about the situation. Is it good to play against Talal Shakerchi?
No, it's not good to play against him. So, but Jason sees he's been raising, he's been raising, he's been raising, and so I'm going to do something about it. And, you know, he might be best served just folding the fours here. This is a regular tournament. I love his re-raise, but in this tournament, I'd like to see him not re-raise with the fours.
And for Jennifer's sake...
And now he is sick to his stomach because he feels like Jason's a smart player. He knows that probably Jennifer has a bigger pair, and Shakerchi has 2 overcards, so he's like sick. He's like, oh man, this really backfired.
He's thinking set, 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 and it hasn't happened.
Talal's going to check it. I think Jason, he might take one stab, but most likely he's going to check, but he might take one stab at it and give himself a chance to beat Jennifer's pair of 9s. That's what the bet accomplishes. It gets Jennifer to fold 9s, and then he has to hope that Shakerchi has not hit the flop.
It's a very narrow window, but he sees the opening.
Well, first of all,
wow,
Jennifer's not going for it.
Wow.
What a great play. Wow. And Shakerchi had to fold a queen. Talal folded queen king.
He can't bagel. I thought this was a Captain Horrible mission, but Tilly has made this look perfect. What?
Yeah, and now Jason has to fold. I mean, he just has to fold.
So do you think she's played a couple of dynamics quite good here that Talal Shakerchi does not want to go out? And,
no, she wasn't thinking that.
She's just thinking I'm super strong here?
She's thinking, I have Jason beat, and I'm just going to go ahead and raise it. Now, Jason's thinking, wow, can I re-raise and get her off the hand? But he's coming to the conclusion, probably in his mind, wow, I only started this hand with, you know, 240,000, 207,000, whatever it is. It's not a lot, and so it's a tough spot for him.
I wonder if he's thinking to himself, Phil, if I don't actually win, there's so much money in this pot that if I don't try and win this pot, I may actually, you know, not be in shape to get into the playoffs. That would be giving up a little, wouldn't it? He's better than that.
Well, I mean, this is you know, this is a testament to him that he's thinking this long, because it means that, you know, that he has some suspicions that maybe Jennifer does have 8s. I think he has to fold though. Yep. Nothing he could do.
It was a huge upside for Jason Mercier could he win that pot, but the downside was even greater.
Wow, did Jennifer Tilly, wow, did she play that hand well. And you're right, Talal cannot afford, I mean, she didn't think that when she made the raise, but basically Talal had to snap fold because, and I guarantee you if he had like 600,000, he does not snap fold. He's going to get involved somehow.
Why play safe when she's so much more exciting playing the game that she knows and loves.
Well, I had 550,000 yesterday. I had to finish in the top 5. I didn't do it, so in retrospect, I wish I would have been a little safer, but you know, when I got involved with the jungle man and got him all trapped up like that, it felt pretty good. Even after the hand, I was like, wow.
You wrapped him up like a Christmas turkey, and he flew the coop.
Yeah.
10,000.
Where's Alina? Let's call the waitress.
Well, it was a matter of time with Jungle Man, and I knew it. I just didn't know he'd hit the runner.
He's been putting himself in some incredible spots throughout this Premier League, and
now Jason's opted to do the other move, just call with the 3s for 10K, which, I mean, he's down to 207,000. He probably doesn't even have to call with that hand, honestly.
He's a little bit feeling like he has to actually make a hand, or trying to do it now before he gets into push shove mode.
I think the call's fine. You know, but he doesn't. And this time the re-raise would have worked. Last time it didn't.
Queen of clubs, deuce of clubs, 6 of clubs.
Now I don't think that Jason's figured out that Talal has pressure on him. I don't know if they know that, and that would be something for them to use against him at this point. Jason may well call here. He has a pair, which might be good, and he has a flush draw, which might be good. So it's a might.
Yeah, I think Mercier does know, because, as we said, he seems so comfortable with the things. They were dismissing it as such a weird branch that Shakerchi could go out first, because he never, it was so obvious that he had to play tight. But now that there's a chance of him going out first, and Jennifer's the chip leader, I mean, suddenly, Mercier must know that he can put pressure on.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, they all know that Shakerchi doesn't really have a lot of pressure in the sense that he's already in the top 5. Now that's going to win the pot, I think. I think Jason's going to have to fold here. Jason has a might, but it's starting to look worse with the offsuit king on board.
What I love is that Jason feels like Shakerchi is under pressure. Well, Shakerchi feels like Jason is under pressure, and it sort of induces them both to bluff the other. Is Jason good enough to have a look down at Talal and say, you don't have anything?
We're going to find out right now.
Do you know him as a reader of people, or as a player of the technical side of the game?
That's interesting, because I don't know. I mean, he definitely has some reading abilities, for sure. How good they are, I'm not sure at this point. I mean, I've seen Daniel's reading abilities displayed on television. Jason's great technically, knows exactly what he needs to do, and definitely has at least some reading ability. You don't do what he did without that.
Jennifer Tilly, chip leader. And Talal Shakerchi actually mid-pack, which is fine for him. That would still take him through. Of the others right now, Tony G in playoff position.
I just can't stand. That's why I can't go to the World Series that much.
7 calls.
When the weather sometimes World Series is about all that I can take.
Why? I mean, the weather's so good in Europe, especially like forest, pine trees.
1 folds.
Oh, you can get out of Vegas.
Tobias has opened this up under the gun, Phil. You know, he can do whatever he wants. And Tilly, who might be saying to herself now, look, I've got 450. I've got a real shot to win this heat.
It's dry as well.
Yeah, you know, Tilly's just playing her game. She has ace-jack suited, and she's like, all right, I'm going to call. You know, it turned out that she has him dominated.
Ace of hearts, queen of hearts.
Even Dan had an ace-8 this hand. He made a good laydown. Once he saw Jennifer call and Reinkemeier raise. I wouldn't be surprised if Tobias checks here. He's thinking in his mind, all right, what's the downside to a check? Maybe she has king 10 suited. Maybe I'm giving 1 free card here.
What's wrong with that? If that's what you want.
I love the fact that Tilly has been a little counterintuitive here. On the one hand, I think the classic strategy was for her to be super tight coming in. On the other hand, because so many other players had to be tight, she might have felt early on, I can actually play hands and not have that much resistance, and there's been a little of that.
Well, I was expecting Daniel to do that. So Jennifer's in a great spot here, by the way. So Tobias basically had to bet on the turn. He has an ace, and there's a chance that Jennifer has king jack, so he fired. He may value bet this again for like 30,000. Also figuring that if he checks, she's going to bet 30 or 40,000 if she hasn't beat anyway. So a bet's just like good form here.
He wants to get paid off by a king jack sort of hand, a king 10 type of thing.
Plus, if she has ace 10, then he's going to pay it off anyway.
25,000.
So 25,000. Well, come on, she's going to call for sure.
Yeah, she made a quick decision, and she'll have the winner. Things going well for Ms. Tilly. In fact, they couldn't be going better. Not only does she have $500,000 in chips early, Phil Hellmuth, but Talal Shakerchi is on the shorter half of the field.
I am the best, not the best in the world, but the best girlfriend type person. I went in there, I was like looking for a picture of me looking all smart and determined, and there were no pictures of me. They just wanted to try to slide it under the door. Like, oh, Jennifer's in it too.
She is so underrated.
Our drinks have arrived.
Oh, yeah, hooray. Now we're going to see some poker.
She is such an underrated player, Jennifer Tilly, number one. And number two, I just had this feeling, because she has had success among this class of people. I had a feeling that she might make the final table. And right now, she is in position to.
She really is, and she's completely underrated.
She does have a World Series of Poker bracelet, and those are not easy to get.
You're awesome. Right there is perfect. Thanks so much. You're the best. Thanks.
She may have, I don't know if she's taken this too far. Reinkemeier from the button and Jennifer Tilly defending.
King of spades, 4 hearts, 7 hearts.
So Jennifer's flopped the best hand.
15,000.
She leads right out.
This is the first time since this Premier League has begun when Tobias Reinkemeier hasn't just looked like a champion at every card and every bet. He's actually looking nearly human for the first time that I've seen him.
Wow, look at that. He floated her with absolutely nothing to try to bluff her, which is not a bad play because he feels like he's getting her to lay down hands. He feels like he owns her, like he can bluff her. So he called in order to bluff, and now basically he hit the Miracle Queen. Now he can't even bet.
Amazing.
And the river is King of Diamonds.
Well, that's a great card from Tobias's point of view. It now looks like Jennifer can't have a king.
Wow. Wait till this hand gets shown down.
7 bets,
Although that
25,000.
makes things a little trickier.
No, he's going to snap call. I mean, he's calling for sure. He's going to be really embarrassed to show this hand.
Does he have any reasons to raise? Is that what he wants to think about? Or is... No. Is he actually...
He might have a reason to raise. He might think, you know, she never checks top pair on the turn. This might be a raising spot for him. But if he does, it's a genius raise.
He is one of those guys that loves to squeeze value on the river. That's, I think, the super high roller. That's what defines those guys.
Wait till he shows this hand.
2-5 shows kings and queens.
She hasn't said anything yet, but she'll be thinking, you called me on the flop?
Well, that's an eye-opener for her. And she's going to say, wow, he called me. She's going to notice. I want to hear what she has to say.
Nothing. The two short stacks, Mercier and Kurganov. Kurganov in particular has to make some things happen, and he has not yet. In fact, it's backfired on him.
As the final game in Group B hurtles towards its thrilling conclusion, there's barely been time to draw breath. Only 3 will make it through, but everyone around this table wants to have their say in the outcome. Back now to our commentary team.
Remember when you bluff squeeze and you had a huge hand? It's like flush? Yeah, flush.
She don't fold.
You're done with your food, right? She took it.
I was like, these guys are really
Yeah, there is a feeling, I think, that Mercier will have it, because they've seen it happen before, that even if Tony G has a pretty good stack, you know, you kind of feel like it's not the worst thing. I mean, Tony G doesn't really do locking up a big stack, does he? So Mercier feels like, well, not that he's going to beat Tony, but that the chips will be in play anyway.
Mercier is watching Tony, he's watching Igor, and he's watching Phil Laak. And Jennifer Tilley's in his periphery, but Jennifer Tilley has a lot more points than he does, and you know, she's basically a lot, you know, had 6 points as well.
You have a hand at least?
Yeah. King of clubs, 6 of spades, 3 of hearts.
Don't lead out, Jennifer.
7 bets, 8,000.
Reinkemeier has to fold this time. He's going to snap fold.
Right.
6-5 calls.
Wow, he did it again. He's going to try to outplay her again. Wow.
He just shadows her.
7 bets, 15.
I like her little bet, though, because you don't want to give him a free card in case he has a 3 or a 6.
He has made it more interesting. He seems to always catch something that keeps the turn in play. Just a flush draw.
Oh, are you kidding
That's
me?
a little unfair.
Come on.
Actually, it's a lot unfair, isn't it?
That's ridiculous.
got
That's
him.
ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I go back. I'd like to see what his chances of winning this pot were on the flop.
You know, Reinkemeier has a bluff in his on the river. He does that kind of stuff, doesn't he?
Certainly possible.
He's tried to bluff her before.
Raises to 104,000.
Remember, like, this moment when the
How unlucky was that? I mean, it's just hard to watch.
Sorry, I have to do the Vanessa Rousseau again. Okay, I laid out on the flop. I'm probably bluffing. You see me do it again. Fired another barrel on the turn. Could still be bluffing.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. The only thing I can think of is you have 2 pair. Or you know I always fold.
I mean, a 3 of spades, I guess, could have given him a backdoor flush draw. It's
3,
even
4
worse
of
than
spades. You know, ace 3 of spades.
That's a great pass. That
Really
is
is.
a great pass with tons of class.
Well done, Jennifer. Well
He's
done.
too tough. You deserve it. Take it down.
How does she find that?
Win the Premier League. Go back to your house in Chelsea. Hang some new wallpaper with your newfound winnings. Buy a cat. Buy a purebred dog for $100,000. Impress the girlies when you go for a walk with your Dalmatian. Buy some new duds. Buy Jakey. Diamond-studded watch, right? Not that they call him.
Oh, she's good. He certainly is.
Antonio was dating this gold digger girl once, and he goes, "You can buy anything you want at Zara."
You can buy it for like 3 items.
Yeah, she wanted to go. She wants to go to Louis Vuitton.
6,
She
7
sees
fold.
him tossing around the $1 million bundles of money on TV, and she really didn't think he was an anything you want at Zara type of guy.
8 calls.
Tony G, 2 10s.
1 fold.
And for someone like Mercier, and maybe this is why Phil Laak is coming in. I don't know what he has, but he wants to be a part of this pot. These are the guys he has to beat.
Yeah, but he has Jack 10 suited. Interesting, he's dead this hand. He folded when he had them dead and called when he's dead. A lot of players love the 10 Jack suited. It's one of the best drawing hands in the game. Still, in a Premier League, when Mercier raises and Tony G calls, he's playing super tight. You figure to be in pretty bad shape with that hand. He's going to need a heck of a flop to get out.
That's a good start.
6 of spades, ace of clubs.
But Mercier is in pole position here.
3 checks.
Mercier's going to bet this. He's going to bet like 22,000 or something.
6 bets, 13,000.
Was it you who were telling me in the first tee you noticed that Mercier's c-betting frequency was off the charts, that he just seemed to always do it?
Yep. He got himself in trouble. For only 13,000, Phil's a little tempted here, but.
Jeez, I'd be tempted. Backdoor flush draw, and the gut shot straight draw against the man you need to knock out the most. I don't know. Is that wrong? Would it have been wrong to call?
I mean, again, it's the dynamics of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Which is why you can't play the 10-jack suited in the first place if you can't peel for 13,000 when you have a belly buster. Why play it in the first place?
And
That's
a guy
another reason
like
to
Phil
fold.
Laak, can a guy like Phil Laak perhaps get a free card on the turn? He's got a perception as a tight guy. I mean, you know, a spade might come down. Mercier
No,
might.
they read all those hands he's been defending with.
Right.
Tobias with the chip lead. I mean, that miracle hand against Jennifer Tilly helped him out. And Jennifer's back in potential trouble.
Yeah, and the blinds are going to 3,000 and 6,000 now, Phil. So there was.
That's
like
when the game changes.
1,000.
Antes come in.
3,000, big blind, 6,000.
What do you have? 2, 4, 2.
All bets are off.
Just you three guys go out.
It's a dogfight.
Go and party.
4-way dogfight for one spot. For one bone.
Yeah. Incredible. Like in the championship here. These guys in the Premier League, the elite players.
Yeah, I know. Don't they seem
And
like...
you're in there with them.
Not really.
Yes, you
no?
are.
Oh, in the Premier League.
You're on 16 points. You're at elite level where you can go up.
the
We're
loser's
drawing
Loser
as dead as a doornail to go up.
All right, this is the European version that Tony's saying of maybe the minor leagues and the major leagues. They have the soccer or football league over here in the UK, and Tony's saying he's unfortunately still in college ball, just wanting to get to the pros.
It's an aggressive position you've taken like that. That's good.
Oh, right. It has the perched hawk on his nest or eagle.
The vulture.
Yeah.
The vulture.
Waiting to pick at the carrion with your
I wouldn't
vulture
sit like this, except I did so many hours sitting here and the booth that now I can stretch my legs. They're getting really, like I'm stretching right now. I'm just.
No, it's a great sort of
It's
thing
also
as well.
make sure your spinal cord is straight.
Yeah, I'm always
More.
trying to sit up, not to lean back on my chair. But that's the lessons we could teach, like poker.
Well, this has been opened by
So you
Kurganov
always
and
stay
flatted
away,
by Dan
stay at
Shak.
the
The
end of
3-bet
the
has
chair.
come from Talal.
Right, so you're working a bit with your back.
Yeah.
If you just lean back and kind of, it can be very, very bad.
Looks superior.
Kurganov is wondering, he knows Talal's crazy history of re-raising with nothing, and so Kurganov may just go for it here, you know, and can you really blame him based on what you've seen, Jesse, in the booth?
No, I mean, there's already, and there's 79,000
I mean, we know he
in
is
the pot.
ace-queen,
right?
But you know, if you just put yourself in that situation, yep, and he's gonna boom it,
Wow.
and I don't blame him.
And you liked it, Phil. You actually like this.
Well, I mean, yeah, I try to commentate as if I didn't see the other guy's full cards, and that's the way I do it. Now, I don't know why Dan's wasting time. We all know he's gonna fold.
And there is a line of thought here that Shakerchi is not supposed to call. He doesn't have to call, first of all, Phil. And a bagel is terrible for him. So what do you think?
I mean, he's in a really tough spot with ace-queen here because it's going to cost him most of his chips and give him some chance. He's not that worried about Jennifer Tilly actually winning the heat to take him over, but he has a chance to make sure that doesn't happen. And Kurganov has been playing so tight that Shakerchi is thinking in his mind, it's probably a race, and do I want to run a race? Or he might even have ace-king.
He's giving Kurganov the big stare down. I mean,
Listen, this is a great businessman here too, right? Oh, and he's gonna let it go.
It was just because it was more comfortable to just bring in the others. Yeah.
What do you have there?
I had a hand.
If Kurganov knew that he had ace-queen, he would never have tried that move. Because Talal is likely to call there. So if Kurganov knew his opponent had ace-queen, he folds. But in his mind, he's like, all right, I probably have the best hand. But, you know, there are a lot of hands that, you know, are flipping when I move in with king-jack. And there's other hands like ace-10 that he might fold.
After the break, the blinds go up and the players are under increased pressure to win enough league points to see them into the next stage of the tournament.
Well, I invited a certain young man who I think is a contender. I don't think there's that many contenders on the planet. I invited Sam Trickett to come into the booth here. Welcome, Sam.
Well, hey guys. Also, congratulations, Sam. I mean, you are at the final table, which, I mean, it was never certain, was it? Like at any time. But you kind of always felt like you were going to get there, maybe.
Yeah, my strategy was to play really loose and try and get a win under my belt early. But it didn't work out, so on the last heat I kind of had to, play correctly, if you like. As much as I didn't like to make them tight folds, I knew I had to do it, so it was more of a grind, but I'm glad that's the way I played.
Boys, I'm going to have to divert your attention because I can see there's some hands out there this time.
Mercier has opened, Tony G's flatted, and now Kurganov on the button.
Who just moved in with King Jack for a 4-bet and told everybody.
He told everybody?
Yeah.
All right. I like the tell. He's trying to not let anyone mess with him. Let him know that he's going to stick it back.
Exactly.
That's why he's doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you are with what's been going on in this group, Sam, but the way the points are, it looks like Tobias and Talal and Dan Shak are nearly guaranteed to be through, and the others are basically playing, for the playoffs. So between Kurganov, Mercier, Laak, and Tony G, it's kind of like 4 players for that one last playoff spot, which is a brutal sort of situation.
And look at Dan Shak here with the ace-10 of diamonds. Now, he's thinking, all right, I know that Kurganov just moved in with King Jack, and, he's supposed to fold.
Solid fold.
But I'll tell you this much. If Kurganov had raised, I think Shak makes a big re-raise. They might have gotten all in.
Try and get Tony G off a pocket pair before the flop.
Oh, Tony G putting in 40K to set mine.
Give it to me. Hold on.
I feel like you know Tony's game better than anybody, Jesse.
Love Tony, don't you?
Oh, Dan flopped top 2. He must be mildly tilted.
I think the funny thing about Tony is he's one of those players where you don't really need to look at his chips. You look at his face. I mean, at this level, there's only a couple guys whose face can tell you exactly how things are going.
Yeah.
Not good.
I tuned in for like 5-10 minutes the other day for my hotel room just to see him stick it in with 7-2 suited. I was absolutely loving it. I'm sure if he had 7-3 suited, he wouldn't have done it. He was just like, I want to win with 7-2.
He ripped it. That was funny.
Now, this is an interesting hand here because.
Did it go check on the flop?
8-bet.
Yeah.
Wow. And Tony bet 70,000 here. And Kurganov, how can Kurganov put Tony on an ace, Sam? Don't you agree with me?
Tony does peel a lot more 3-bets than most people. But
what are you going to give him, ace jack?
Exactly, and would he even bet this strong? It looks like he's strong. I think he's always going to lead twice here when he does lead, so I would. If I was going to call, if I was Kurganov, I'd like to call twice. I'd have a fold here or call twice because, you're pretty face up. I don't like to be face up and call here and fold river because I think it's a good bluff spot. So I'd make my decision now if I was Kurganov.
But it seems hard for Tony G to have an ace here and call a 40K re-raise.
Yeah, he's also pocket 8s and pocket 5s. He could have an ace-10. So there is other hands he could have.
He could have 10s, 8s, or 5s
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
a bad spot for him.
There have been some really funny spots in this Premier League with the pocket pairs on the ace-high board. I mean, yourself and Antonio Esfandiari, the flop got checked back. And do you think the best bet you seize on those ace-high boards and then those kind of pots?
Yeah, I know if that board was an ace-10 3 rainbow, I'd prefer to bet. Like the board against me with Antonio, I like to bet because generally people don't check raise them dry boards too much. So if they've got a big hand, they tend to check call anyway. But on a board like an ace-10-8 with a suit, he doesn't want to bet and get raised because there is some combinations of draw hands that will check raise. That's why he didn't want to bet that one. But I imagine if it was like ace-10-3 rainbow, he would have just bet, so he's not face up.
Jesse, I told you Trickett would be good.
Well, of course, he's one of the best thinkers about this game. I mean, it was so funny. I think a lot of players, especially, for instance, that hand that Hellmuth played against Jungle Man, yourself and I think Antonio, you guys were so onto exactly what the dynamics were in that hand. We had no idea here in the booth, Phil Laak, but you guys just kind of get what's going through Jungle Man's mind and exactly what the dynamics were.
Jungle Man's obviously a very talented player, but I think you know, if you play online, he's just got very specific ways that he plays hands, and he's tiny in these patterns. So he's not the quickest at adjusting to live play, but you know, it just felt like he was bluffing. Like Phil's line is like perfect, because when he check raises, he thinks that he's like representing a 4 or nothing, and he's never going to fold in position. And then when I love the turn bet, the small bet to induce as well. And then when he did raise, I thought Phil was going to fold with the speech and stuff, but obviously that's kind of what he does, likes to just try and get more information. And then when he called, I really liked the way he played it. Like the check raise and the small bet to induce I thought was real good.
That was the white magic there, the talking to him, see how he responds, and I think you and I thought the same exact thing in that hand, and I don't know if, and that's what the heck, he couldn't have aces or kings or queens there.
Yeah, it was just quite simple that he just wouldn't raise his boats on the turn. It's that simple, especially versus you know, quite a tight player, not check raise bluffing there too much, so it's like, for him to raise there makes no sense, and it was like a pretty obvious bluff. But I'm not saying that he would have done that against every opponent, but in that specific spot from watching the hand, I really felt he was bluffing.
Now Tony G opened this pot, called by Kurganov on the cutoff and Shakerchi in the big blind, and now he's just kind of slipped it to Kurganov just to have a. Tony can't just check call here. Isn't that very passive?
Yeah. I think I'd prefer a C bet.
Relax.
If the two of clubs on there, I might prefer a check call.
All right.
Because I'm sick like that. I just want to check call and see a club.
Well, Tony's not folding, so the question is, what is he doing?
I feel like he is going to fold because he just won a pot off Kurganov.
Right.
Do you know when he's just won the bluff? Do you know, and he's like, you know what, he can have this one. It's kind of a natural thing that people do, right?
Wow, that's true. Yeah.
Speaking of men, I mean, you said something at one point during the heat, Sam. It was on the river when he check raised you. You said, I can make this fold against almost anyone, Jungleman, but not against you. I'm never making it against you. That was, I mean, obviously you had a flush. But is that part of the way you have to think against Jungleman on the rivers?
The Jungleman's obviously a person you need. When you're in the river situation, it's very likely that he could be check raising you. So you need to decide before you're going to bet if you're going to bet and call a raise. Because like, if you think it's a good bluff spot for him, I don't mind betting and then calling the raise. Which obviously he had a flush, and when I had the top pair, I decided that it was a good spot, bluff spot for him, because I never have a flush because I would have barreled turn. So I decided to go for the bet call, and obviously it didn't work out this time. But you know, he's a good player and he plays these turns and rivers really well, so it's difficult to get on the right side of him. This Pacific Premier League, I think he's run extraordinarily good to like call the flop with nothing and then just backdoor these like really weird hands. And obviously, if you're playing against a player who's tricky on rivers and turns, and then he can't really have many hands, it's hard to make these folds. So yeah, he's definitely ran real good.
Phil Laak is making all the wrong moves.
If I'm a player like Phil Laak and, you know, I'm playing on quite tight and making a few moves, I like to play really tight when the blinds are this small, and then put my 3-bets out later when the blinds are a bit bigger, and you pick up more. Like, you know, you pick up more chip by your 3-bet, and you get more credit because you play tighter too.
And this, also, Phil has put himself, this move is horrendous for him in the sense that Kurganov was going all in against Reinkemeier, which is good for him. They were going to be all in this hand.
Now he's got a tough spot, yeah.
Yeah, Phil jumped in there in the middle. He's sacrificed his 38,000.
He's so sick right now.
And he's got to be sick right now. And he's taken Kurganov off of a hand where he may well have gone broke.
Yeah,
and moved him up.
Right, and this is actually an easy fold for Kurganov, right? Because he doesn't mind Reinkemeier having the chips. He's got more than Laak, more than Mercier, and maybe they get it all in.
It's not an easy fold because he's down here in points. I mean, he's basically has 8 points, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, he's just so low on the points. At some point, he's going to have to gamble, and it's just, again, I called he'd move in with the King-Jack, and I'm not saying he's going to move in here, but it just wouldn't be that bad of a play, considering the points.
The players at the table will know if Phil Laak's been 3-betting a lot or not, because it's quite... Opening pots is very different to 3-betting.
It is.
Because obviously when you 3-bet, you're representing a really big hand.
I think
it might have been his first 3-bet, yes.
Yeah, if it's his first 3-bet, Kurganov will know that, and he'll know Tobias knows that, so Tobias can never really be bluffing there if it's his first 3-bet.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
You showed hot.
20-pound pre-roll if you can show a card lower than 7.
20 pounds. Sounds very tempting.
Phil, if I were Phil Laak here, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's dusted off some chips unnecessarily, Jesse, with all those two bets. Two betting is so bad for him with those guys right behind him. But maybe three bet's not quite as bad.
He was a guy who, you know, he took pictures, he was making graphs. I mean, you wouldn't have, he put about 3 hours of study into strategy, and he's coming here, and he's like, it's almost like he's never had a consistent plan for more than 3 hands in a row. You know,
I feel that a lot of people's made that mistake. I think you need to have the right balance between strategy and don't forget you're playing poker against another guy in a hand, and you've got to try and work out what they have as well and make good decisions. Like, a lot of the time you put yourself in these situations like, is he just doing it because he should be attacking me? And it adds an extra dynamic, and I think a lot of people haven't adjusted correctly to the strategy, and it's backfired, like maybe as with Phil just here.
Here, I agree with you. So that extra dynamic makes it so fascinating that I think that's why so many people watch the Premier League.
Right, that's true.
You have to wait for a person to go out.
Is Mercier going to step off the cliff?
Give him a...
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good spot for Kurganov. He's loving this. He's going to like dwell a little bit. There's no way he's ever folding it.
Oh, he's so happy right now.
Yeah, it feels good.
He's like, yes, I got one of these guys. Especially someone who's 3-bet a bunch of times recently.
And especially somebody who he needs to knock out. I mean, he knocks out Mercier. He's 2 points behind him. It's like, oh my gosh. It's almost his biggest threat.
Yeah, it's a real good spot.
Talal, you know, if we're tied for points.
He already knows what he's doing. He's just thinking. He's just like
he's
pretending he has a decision. Yeah.
Right now, he's dancing in his head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like the happy button is on right now in his head. He's like, yippee!
And is it a shove, by the way, or is it some sort of click back to induce?
37 he's playing. Yeah, I generally am one for like clicking back a lot to induce, because I just give a hand like 5, 6, and 7s to make a mistake.
Yeah, he's got 250 back, and
so he's re-raised
24 in, yeah.
So he can make it like...
Jason's got about 200 let back.
Here's the thing, though. They know that he re-raised a little bit with King Jack last time. Like, he re-raised like 70 with King Jack, and so I might re-raise like 70 or something.
Wow, just cool.
Oh, I hate that play.
Yeah,
Don't you hate it?
It's going to be a tough post-flop, this, because Dan's always going to come in too. Wow, just cool.
Oh, I hate that play.
Yeah,
Don't you hate it?
It's going to be a tough post-flop, this, because Dan's always going to come in too.
That's what we should do all the time. Put like 30, 40 in the NC. Right?
Yeah, nobody
There should be a cap on every street.
That because of the poker, right?
Well, he got a good flop.
Yeah.
I like that.
But he doesn't have any more information, really, than he had pre-flop. I mean...
That's what I mean. This is why I don't like to do it. It's such a tough hand to play. I prefer to call with a hand like King, Queen suited, or, you know, just then if you hit, you're going to go with your hand anyway.
Right.
But with 10s, there's not many flops you can kind of go with. Like.
Yeah, there's too many queens, jacks, queens, and kings in the deck, you know?
Unless he's thinking, well, Mercier might have ace-king. Is it that kind of thing?
He obviously thinks Mercier's got it, like ace-king, ace-queen. I can never imagine he's going to fold this flop for 1 bet.
I can't imagine him folding. I'll be very disappointed if he folds here.
Not the way he's played it.
No, I mean, oh my God, I hate the way he played that hand, especially his chip position.
It's not like he fears the bagel either.
Oh my God, how does Mercier win that pot?
There it is.
Yeah.
People think Jason has it a lot? Is he that kind of guy?
100 and scoop it. Everyone's careful with their money, you know?
That was the first time that worked. 4 heats. Anything remotely like that.
Did you ever complete? Did you blank out?
I did not have a good hand, no.
No one wants to go out, you know?
There was some real great stuff in the first heat of Group A you guys played, especially the 3-betting, 4-betting, the Antonio Esfandiari factor. First between you and Antonio, and then Duhamel and Antonio. I mean, was that just kind of sending a message early type of stuff?
It wasn't like sending a message early. I played with Antonio quite a lot during the 1-drop and what have you.
I've heard
that. And I kind of... You know, I had a feel for how he was going to play.
Didn't he push you like 13 million ace-queen against ace-king, a ton of big blinds?
Yeah, I flatted pre-flop on the button. He squeezed from the blinds, and then I clicked back, and he went all in, and I called.
You hated the call, and I
didn't want to play for it all, but like it felt like a right spot. So.
Wow, Talal has opened this up to 14, and Tobias is just flatted with the jacks, and Jason has just been a hero here.
Oh, Kurganov, unlucky. Unlucky here. He needs to gamble. He should have done it with the 10s, and now he's probably going to go broke on this hand. Can Kurganov get away from this? He has 2 guys to study. Oh, he didn't see it. He didn't see it. 2 guys with strong hands waiting on him, and he didn't see it.
He must have some kind of false read here.
There was 60k in the middle, and he had 200k. I mean, I don't hate the play, but I can't understand why he sees this as a better spot as the one before versus Jason.
Exactly.
To me, like looking, the last spot was amazing. This is one of them spots where you like, you know, sometimes do it, you sometimes don't, depending. But you know, it's never. You don't feel good about it because there's so many players in the pot.
So once Tobias has called, which I think he has, how easy a spot is it for Jason?
Easy lay
Tobias is going to re-raise all in, right?
No, he just called.
Oh, he just called. Yeah, Jason should fold here.
I think Jason actually has an easy fold here.
Doesn't play well in a 3-way pot.
Right.
I think Tobias has called. Maybe he is still thinking about it.
I think he's going to go all in. Normally, he would never just call. He'd just go all in and push out ace queen and whatever.
I thought I heard him say call.
I did too.
Yeah, I like the isolation. The reason Jason didn't squeeze the 9s because the type of hand you want to go to the flop with, you don't want to get pushed off it.
Phil, what's he got?
Have you showed?
Oh man, it's so brutal. I probably am supposed to fold, but sometimes I just don't care about that.
He doesn't think that he's ever dominated by Reinkemeier. You know, he just thinks that he would have re-raised with all the hands that dominate him, like 10s, jacks, and queens.
I think this would look really bad if I do it. But.
Yeah, if he was playing the 1K rebuy down at the local casino, he'd probably get it in here, but I feel like he's going to fold them.
All right. Well, it's just wondering, I mean, what the points say as far as, like, he doesn't mind the fact that Tobias is going to knock Igor out.
Yeah,
at least 50% of the time he's probably thinking, if it's a raise.
Yeah, I think Tobias's calling range is like a lot stronger than Kurganov's shoving range as well, so he's got to think that Reinkemeier has a better hand than Kurganov, so I would just fold here and just hope that Tobias knocks him out.
He has to fold for the points too.
A normal 100K. I just.
But
yeah,
well,
yeah.
I just mean
it's like I just said, if it was just a normal one, he would just be sticking it in now.
He did say out loud, Mercier just said a second ago, he said, well, he might have jacks or something, but he still doesn't believe it in his mind.
50% of the time, maybe Reinkemeier is going to have the chips, which is great for him.
Well, Sam called it right. Kurganov could have a lot of hands, but he doesn't have Jason covered anyway. And the fact is that Reinkemeier would move in with 7s, 8s, 6s, maybe even.
Yeah, an ace queen, an ace jack.
But he just did the right thing because he's so good.
Yeah.
Well,
at the end of the day.
I think it was an easy fold.
I don't particularly think that was a tough spot. I think it's the correct fold for the format and just the situation. Like, it doesn't play 2-way, 3-way anyway, so.
Ace will come.
I was trying to get you in with 10s or 9s.
Ace from space.
You almost did.
2 butchers of back that.
Well, for Igor Kurganov, this is pretty thin.
Will he be eliminated from the Premier League?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where's that ace?
Oh yeah,
out.
Yep.
Just no 9.
Just no 9.
Just no 9. Protect Jason. No 9. Wow, the butcher. The butcher.
You know, there's an idea that maybe Kurganov never really felt comfortable in this format. He just never seemed to be on his A game, and as it turns out, we'll have to sit and watch Tobias try and power through. Yep. So let's take a look at the league table as it stands. With that elimination, Phil Laak is now in big trouble. He has to beat Mercier and Tony G and score big points to have any chance to make it to the final table. But for Igor Kurganov, his time in the Premier League has come to an end.
Talk to me about the experience of being here and playing in this format.
I really enjoyed it. It was good fun with the guys. Like, we had shared a couple of laughs. We got to know each other better, so I liked it a lot about the Premier League.
Will we see you back here again, do you think? Will you come back and play again?
I would definitely like to better my result, so I hope so.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking to us, and hopefully we do see you again.
We are down to 7 players here in Group B's last league match. Action continues in just a moment.
Welcome back to Asper's Casino in Westfield, Stratford City for Group B's final league game. Before the break, Igor Kurganov was knocked out in 8th place. He's now eliminated from this season's event. For the rest of the lineup, well, they now continue to clash for a chance to progress through to the next stage of the tournament. It's time to rejoin our commentary team.
All right, so Reinkemeier was 700,000, and he already has the points lead, right?
Right, he does, and you could kind of throw him out of the drama when you're looking at things, and say that Tilly's doing well to stay in the playoff zone, and G is ahead of Mercier and way ahead of Laak for that 5th spot.
It's obvious, isn't it obvious?
But then it would have been a flip, though.
Isn't that obvious? The butcher backed out.
I'm ahead.
Tony G, pocket rockets.
3-gapper.
What will he do? What will he do? Of course, a raise.
See it 8.
Talal's okay. Oh, so Talal's open to 13.
He's a dancing judge right now, Tony G.
When I've played so tight like Tony has and not been 3-betting like at all, I tend to like to just call here and just, you know, I don't understand.
I mean, Tony's 3-bets throughout this entire Premier League have been queens, jacks, kings, aces, and then, of course, the one 3-bet shove that he made with the 7-deuce suited.
Yeah.
That's like the entire range of it, you know?
Yeah.
A little of this, a little of
Talal
that.
has to know that.
I know, Talal just peeled him anyway. He's with 7-6 off.
He peeled anyway.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, that might cost him some money.
I predict Tony will get 1 bet out of him.
You want to be in it?
Tony has been seen to be betting like ace-king high here, though, hasn't he? He did it the other day, and I think he was like, I don't even think he knows where he is in the hand. Yeah, so, I don't think Talal can fold once. I think he has to call and then fold river.
Well, I think Talal would just love it if an ace came. Would save him.
Yeah.
Ace king saves him.
I just don't understand his thought process when he wants to call Tony's 3-bet.
Tony was actually in the heat yesterday. He was actually being a bit not rude, but you know how Tony G when he picks on someone. And Talal was like, Tony, come on.
Good for Talal. You can't be playing. You can't let Tony G run you over.
Scratch his head. Think for a while. Fold.
Is that kings? No. You got ace king. You got ace king.
Me?
No, you haven't got ace king.
You got to call anyway. There's so much money in there that you can't really fold this.
Oh, I hope he gets the call so bad. I love it when the speech you talk and then they call.
You induce the call.
It's the perfect bet.
The speech induced the call. Sam and I are bumping hands right now.
What do you think of Tony's verbal
And you win.
game?
And if you beat ace king, you win.
Wow. I just never call in these spots when someone gives me the speech like this. Probably should be telling everybody that, but I just feel too owned if I get the speech and get called and call and lose.
And basically, Tony just told a bald-faced lie and looked right at him. And then sometimes that sets people's instincts off. Where they're like, all right, he's lying. He doesn't have ace king.
Yeah, I like
Therefore, I'm going to fold. It gives too much information to tell the bald-faced lie.
Now, I don't want to create a controversy between you two, but there was a hand where you made a big bet on the river. You had it.
Yeah, ace king.
And Hellmuth dwelled for ages. And he was talking to himself, and then he turned to you and spat out something, and as soon as you opened your mouth, he snapped mucked.
Yeah.
And I mean, didn't that put the fear in you?
I've been talking about it all week. I was like, he didn't have to do that. It made me look so owned. He was like, I said, what did you say? And he just mucked. I'm like, what?
And it was weird because it was almost like you were thinking the whole time, Phil, what can I say that is going to get a response?
Cool.
Aces.
I have to get third. Top 3.
And Talal has called.
Oh, he talked him into it.
So maybe the G's got the power. This is when Tony gets really happy.
Yeah, he's going to go
It's
off
hard
now.
to get a call.
Here we
You
go.
must have had a good hand.
Love it. Love the needle.
Nothing at all? No.
Well, I had a 6.
He definitely, I think the speech helped him there, didn't it?
Yes, it might have worked out. I'd played a good once.
I'm a calling station, as you know.
Yeah, there's so much money in there, Todd. You have to call that. Look at the pot. It's true, though. 60. No, I didn't. There's 120. I'm betting 60. There's 130,000 in there. I mean, It's an easy call.
C6 fold.
130, I'm putting 9.
That's an easy call. We would have all folded.
I called you that first hand, and either I went home or you went home. I'm just so.
Yeah, that would have made sense.
Well, now it definitely makes sense. Because I'm exhausted. And you're now the butcher of Baghdad again. You're the old Tony.
C2 fold.
I look good when I win with aces.
Look what I created.
9,000.
Oh, but God knows if he
I haven't
won
created
that.
anything. I haven't even got that many chips. It's just right.
C3 fold.
It's looking like a lot.
Just friendly.
To us down here, it looks like a stack.
C4 fold.
Yeah, you're sitting on 35 points.
No,
still like.
I understand. You were right. I was just trying to get to 2. No, you know what? I just didn't want the bagel.
C4 check. C5 check. C8 bet 15,000. C4 fold. C5 call.
Here comes Reinkemeier floating again, and he floated in a pot he couldn't possibly beat Jennifer Tilly and hit runner, but this time he's not going to do it. Let's see if Tony has the wits to check the turn.
C5 check, C8 check.
Tony check back there.
Yep,
I like
it.
the snap check back. And obviously Tobias just has to bet now. He'll only bet small then.
Is there any form here for going for a big bet?
Well, no, because Tony can just have some aces, like, you know,
Like
ace
that.
8, ace 9, ace 10, even ace queen look, so. Yeah, I prefer just a small bet just to push him off hands like 6s, 8s, and king,
Tony G
queen,
should
king jack.
Tony G should ask him what he had.
Good for the game, right, Phil?
Not for my game.
But everyone knows I'm just the businessman's friend, and I only qualify to play in business games. Really, I mean that's the truth. I'm not like the elite level guy. I'm just a simple-minded poker player with a few moves and big heart.
Shakerchi's on the short stack, and if he is the next one out, he'll only finish with 28 points, so Tilly can still overtake him with a win, which is not ideal from Talal's point of view.
C4 all in.
And from 12,000 now, Shakerchi all in for, like, this is 25 bigs. Is that all right?
It's a tough call, isn't it?
It's a real tough one.
He's
but
very desperate.
Versus this guy, I'm going to struggle to fold, I think.
But you don't have anything to lose. You're sick. You're one of the most beautifully sick minds ever. So does the sick mind just do this with King 8 of diamonds? The sick minds do weird stuff. I've been noticing that in the box.
The sick minds.
I would love to get in against King 8.
I would love to get in as King 8.
Pocket 8s, I'd be like, okay, this is great. And I can still win if things don't go well. Right? This is something. That was a joke.
That is something, Phil.
It is such a call. Oh, he's done it.
Good call, Phil.
On the backs, please.
Yeah! Oh, let it hold. Oh, he is the sick King 8 of diamonds guy. I know, but like, I gotta get in there. All the chips in the world, I can't survive. I know, whatever.
He's just happy he made the right play, isn't he?
Flop comes.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. It's just a 9.
Pretty good, pretty good.
No 9, no 9.
Only a 9.
No, now you don't want
Ace would be okay. I'll take it.
do you want an ace?
It tidies things up.
He's got more weird superstitions about how you root for cards.
It's over. Unless a king comes. Unless a king comes on the river, it's a tie.
Yeah, he hasn't seen it at all.
No, he has no idea.
Big one!
9!
Wow, he made the 9
Wow. He made a straight.
Should have gone the other way around. Would have been more fun.
Those are probably Dan Shak's. Yeah.
Well, for Talal, he's almost guaranteed
Good luck at the
to be at the
table.
final table. He's guaranteed to be in the playoffs, of course, but finishing with 28 points. If Jennifer Tilly does end up winning this heat, she will pass him, which is
Only Jennifer Tilly winning
correct.
means he's in the playoffs.
It is now looking like 3 players for the 1 spot. Tony G, Jason Mercier, and Phil Laak for that 5th and final playoff spot. But there's a little more to play.
See, twofold.
One of us would go home crying.
Can you imagine that? You and Jennifer heads up for the last
Phil, if you and I are heads
It's
up,
gonna happen.
I'm gonna just have a heart attack.
the winner has to buy the loser a Louis Vuitton bag.
It's threefold.
I love you, baby.
It would just be so.
For the family, you just let the stronger one play.
No, we're not a family. We're rivals. We're bitter
That's
rivals.
correct. You have no idea.
See, it's 5 call.
So Tony
Right,
G,
and Tony's
Jack
opened
8,
this.
Reinkemeier calls with ace-5 of diamonds, and there's Jason with king-king.
Well, it's certainly a $45,000 heads-up match.
Yep.
If you make it to the final table, do you get your
You're
initial?
guaranteed 45. For
This is
8th
the
place,
first time
so
Jason's been in a
45,000
good
heads up.
spot in a
Really, you
while.
can get to the final table and you still don't get your buy-in back?
Correct. It's a very flat structure.
This is the beauty of 3-betting a lot when you find it. When you have Jennifer would always go with ace-king anyway, but you know when you finally get a hand, they give you less credit.
She's done it instantly.
Yeah.
And this is the absolute best situation for Mercier, because if he knocks her out now, then everything is still open.
Well, he doesn't have her covered.
Call.
Cool.
Oh, that's not
On the
good.
backs, please.
Wow.
I need an ace.
That's a
One
straight
space.
fold.
What? It's a fold?
No, it's straightforward.
It's
Straightforward.
straightforward?
You have ace king.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's very straightforward. I think.
I didn't know. I thought you said that's a straight fold, and I was like, I'm playing too loose.
No.
It's the same on.
I can make Broadway. I can make a flush.
But don't forget, if she does go out next, she's still like a huge favorite to make the playoffs.
Pretty safe flop.
Ace, hearts.
I wouldn't be surprised if she hits an ace, would you?
Hearts.
I just don't feel it coming.
Hearts.
No, I just don't feel it. Jason runs
I don't
pretty
want
good.
to play heads up with
He
you.
does.
Yeah.
That's not good. I need an ace.
There's no aces there.
There is. Don't say
There's
that.
no aces there.
There's only
I
2
need an
aces
ace.
left.
I need the one that
Tony G had
didn't
Jack
fold.
8. He would have flopped top 2, by the way.
And the river scan.
Ace on the river, like the Barry Greenstein book or a 2. How much is that?
Almost
No,
all
really?
of her chips.
How'd you get so many chips?
Well, I just didn't lose the ones that I started with. Luckily, I lost them.
I'm
and
barely
then won
alive
back.
now. This is horrible.
2-8.
3 levels are in the books, and after that last hand, Jennifer Tilly is short-stacked with just 32,000. She is now in danger of being eliminated from this season's Premier League if Jason Mercier and Tony G win big points tonight, and Mercier is now looking very strong in the chip lead.
As you'd expect, the final encounter in Group B is everything you'd want from a poker game. There's still plenty to play for, though, as we find out who makes it into the final, who has to face a heads-up bout, and whose Premier League campaign is over. Join us next time for more Premier League poker.
I ran into straight flush on an absolute cooler. And you folded out of turn.
You know what? Somehow I'm not bitter.
6!
Oh, I dominated too.
Yes! I'm the best!